Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. In a move that has sent shockwaves through international markets, Canada has unleashed a sweeping $22 billion wave of retaliatory tariffs against the United States. This bold action, unprecedented in its scale and scope, has not only rattled the global economy, but also marked a dramatic escalation in tensions between two of the world's closest trading partners. The announcement has left investors, businesses, and policymakers scrambling to assess the fallout, as the ripple effects are felt far beyond North American borders. This sweeping measure, revealed in May 2025, is a direct and forceful response to the Trump administration's aggressive protectionist tariffs, which have specifically targeted key Canadian industries, most notably the vital energy sector, as well as steel, aluminum, and agricultural products. Canadian officials have made it clear these tariffs are not just about economics, but about defending national interests and standing up to what they see as unfair American trade practices. The magnitude of Canada's retaliation is historic. Ottawa's message is unmistakable. It will not be bullied or coerced by Washington's economic might. The government's swift and decisive action has galvanized public opinion at home, with many Canadians rallying behind their leaders and demanding a firm stance against what they perceive as American overreach. Former President Trump's furious and highly public response has only intensified the standoff. What began as a complex economic dispute has now morphed into a deeply personal and political battle, with both sides digging in their heels. Trump's rhetoric has inflamed passions on both sides of the border, making any path to compromise increasingly fraught and uncertain. Every day, billions of dollars in goods and services flow across the U.S. Canada border, supporting millions of jobs and countless communities. Now, this conflict threatens to upend entire industries, disrupt intricate supply chains, and inject a new level of uncertainty into the global marketplace. From auto manufacturing to agriculture, the stakes could not be higher for workers, families, and businesses on both sides. The $22 billion question now looms large. Is this merely a passing storm in the long history of North American cooperation, or are we witnessing the dawn of a fractured and uncertain new era in U.S. Canada relations? As both nations brace for the economic and political fallout, the world watches anxiously, aware that the outcome could reshape the future of global trade. The U.S. Canada Economic Partnership, formalized by NAFTA in 1994, marked a turning point in North American trade. For decades before, the two countries had been each other's largest trading partners, exchanging everything from raw materials to finished goods. NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, built on this legacy, eliminating most tariffs and creating a framework for open markets and cross-border investment. It was a bold experiment in economic integration, one that set a global standard for regional cooperation. In 2020, NAFTA was replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, or USMCA. This new pact aimed to modernize trade rules for the digital age, strengthen labor and environmental standards, and address emerging challenges. The USMCA reaffirmed the deep economic ties between the U.S. and Canada, ensuring that the flow of goods, services, and investment would continue to benefit both nations. Yet, even with these agreements, trade disputes have been a recurring theme. Issues over softwood lumber, dairy quotas, and steel tariffs have sparked tensions, sometimes escalating into high-profile standoffs. These disputes often reflect the complex competitive nature of the relationship, but they are usually resolved through negotiation, compromise, and the mechanisms built into the agreements themselves. However, today's conflict is different. It is broader in scope, more intense in rhetoric, and threatens the very foundation of cooperation that has defined U.S.-Canada trade for generations. The stakes are higher, with political, economic, and even social consequences rippling across both countries. At the heart of the current dispute is energy trade. Canada supplies over 60% of U.S. oil imports, making it a vital partner in ensuring affordable energy for American consumers and industries. This relationship is a cornerstone of both economies, supporting jobs, government revenues, and energy security on both sides of the border. Disruptions in this sector have far-reaching impacts. A closed pipeline or a sudden policy shift can send shockwaves through energy markets, threaten thousands of jobs, and undermine the stability that both countries have worked so hard to build. For governments, the stakes are not just economic but political as well. The USMCA was designed to modernize and stabilize trade relations, with robust dispute resolution mechanisms to handle disagreements. But now, these mechanisms are under severe strain, tested by the scale and complexity of the current crisis. The current crisis is a true test of whether even the most updated agreements can withstand powerful political headwinds and shifting economic realities. As leaders on both sides debate, the uncertainty is felt by businesses, workers, and communities who depend on stable cross-border trade. The future of this vital partnership now hangs in the balance, as both nations grapple with the challenges of a rapidly changing world. The roots of the 2025 trade war can be traced back to the first quarter of the year, when the Trump administration, in a move that stunned international markets, announced sweeping new tariffs on imports from both Canada and Mexico. The measures included a hefty 25% tariff on most goods entering the U.S. from these neighbors, a decision that sent shockwaves through the global trading system and immediately raised concerns among economists and business leaders alike. In addition to the broad tariffs, the administration imposed a targeted 10% tariff, specifically on Canadian energy products, including crude oil and natural gas. This move was particularly significant, as energy trade forms a backbone of the economic relationship between the two countries, and Canada is one of the largest energy suppliers to the United States. The U.S. government justified these actions as necessary to protect American industries and jobs, but the announcement blindsided Canadian businesses. Many companies, especially those in manufacturing and energy, were left scrambling to assess the impact. Analysts on both sides of the border issued urgent warnings about the potential for widespread economic disruption, and newsrooms buzzed with speculation about how Canada would respond. Financial institutions quickly weighed in. Goldman Sachs, one of the world's leading investment banks, projected that Canadian oil producers alone could face losses of up to $7 billion annually as a direct result of the new tariffs. The report also warned of ripple effects across related industries, from transportation to equipment manufacturing, and predicted volatility in global oil prices. The Canadian government wasted little time in crafting a response. On May 28, officials in Ottawa announced a sweeping package of retaliatory tariffs totaling $22 billion, carefully calibrated to match the estimated cost to American consumers and businesses. The Canadian Prime Minister emphasized that these measures were not taken lightly, but were necessary to defend Canadian interests and send a clear message to Washington. The timing of these actions highlighted the tit-for-tat nature of the conflict. Each side's escalation was met with an immediate counter, turning what began as a policy dispute into a full-blown trade war. News outlets across North America tracked the rapid-fire developments, and a sense of uncertainty gripped markets and policymakers. As the tariffs took hold, both countries began to feel the economic pain. Canadian factories reported layoffs and production slowdowns, while American retailers and manufacturers faced higher costs and supply chain disruptions. Economists debated the long-term consequences, but one thing was clear: the standoff was inflicting real damage on both sides with no easy solution in sight. The 2025 tariff crisis has quickly become a defining moment in North American trade history, reshaping relationships, challenging old alliances, and leaving the future of cross-border commerce hanging in the balance. These tariffs are economic weapons, not policy tweaks. The U.S. hit Canada with broad tariffs, but the 10% levy on energy was especially provocative, threatening Canada's export backbone. Canada's $22 billion retaliation targeted politically sensitive U.S. goods, bourbon, oranges, motorcycles, to maximize pressure. Industry groups on both sides warn of job losses, higher costs, and chaos in supply chains. Negotiations are ongoing, but public posturing and political pressure keep both sides entrenched. For now, businesses and consumers are caught in the crossfire of a tense stalemate. The economic fallout is immediate and severe. Canadian oil producers face squeezed profits and job losses, especially in Alberta. U.S. companies and consumers pay higher prices as tariff costs ripple through supply chains. American refineries reliant on Canadian crude see shrinking margins or pass costs to consumers. Canada's retaliation closes off key U.S. export markets, hurting farmers and manufacturers. Tariff revenue may boost the U.S. Treasury short-term, but it's offset by reduced economic activity and lower tax receipts. The greatest damage is uncertainty. Businesses delay investments, stalling growth and eroding confidence. Both economies are left more fragile and less dynamic. For ordinary citizens, the trade war means higher prices, at the pump in stores and on everyday goods. U.S. gas prices rise by up to 25 cents per gallon, while tariffs on Canadian goods make construction materials and food more expensive. The average American household pays an estimated $170 more per year due to energy tariffs alone. Canadians also pay more for U.S. imports. Bourbon oranges, motorcycles, often with no local alternatives. Tariffs function as a hidden tax, passed down the supply chain to consumers. The result, a real hit to household budgets and a stark lesson in the true cost of protectionism. Who bears the cost? Economists say it's shared. Canadian producers absorb much of the energy tariff, but U.S. refiners and consumers pay too. Canada's limited export options force it to accept lower prices, but U.S. refineries depend on Canadian crude, giving Canada some leverage. The financial pain is distributed along the supply chain, with both nations losing out. The U.S. government collects tariff revenue, but broader economic drag offsets any gains. Prolonged conflict will damage both economies, with political pressure likely to force eventual negotiations. A face-saving compromise, tariff removal for concessions, may be the only way out. Until then, the pain continues for businesses and consumers alike. The trade war is as much political theater as economic policy. For Trump, tariffs rally his base and project strength. For Trudeau, retaliation defends Canadian interests and sovereignty. Both leaders must balance public posturing with the need for a diplomatic solution. The dispute deepens political divides. U.S. farmers and factory workers suffer, while Canadians unite against perceived bullying. The path forward demands political courage, and a deal both sides can sell as a win. Mounting economic pain may eventually force a return to the negotiating table. Until then, millions remain hostage to political strategy. The 2025 U.S. Canada trade war is a crisis for one of the world's most successful partnerships. What began as tariffs on energy and goods has spiraled into a battle of political will, disrupting billions in daily trade. The real cost is paid by consumers, workers, and businesses on both sides of the border. There are no winners, only varying degrees of loss. The future depends on whether leaders choose continued conflict or a return to diplomacy and cooperation. This is about more than policy. It's about jobs, stability, and the global order. The answer will shape North American relations for years to come.